What's up, my wizards? It's Dev, SBMTG down there. We do magic stuff on YouTube. Today, I've got something weird for you, but it's something I've done a couple of times. I've always had a lot of fun with it, and you always seem to enjoy it. So let's give it a shot here. These are the 5 cards that I want from Eldritch Moon. The premise here is that I'm going to give you 5 cards of my own design to sort of show you what I want to see out of this next set. And the purpose for this intellectual exercise is not only so I can have fun designing cards and showing them to you, but also so that we can sort of see what certain decks, what pieces they need to get, to become, a little bit more relevant, or maybe sort of the things we need to put safety valves on in the format in order to sort of decrease their relevance. So let's take a look and start with number 5. Well, the first card I want to show you is something that Wizards has gone on record saying is maybe slightly too powerful unless you nerf it the right way. And that's a 1-mana creature that taps for mana. We don't get to see too many of those, especially powerful versions of them. But we're going to try our hand at one here. This is Deathcap Sporling, I'm calling it. And it's just 1 green for a fungus. That's a 0/1. You can tap it and discard a card to add 1 mana of any color to your mana pool. Pretty simple. Well, in the grand tradition of WotC design, I have tried to nerf this card as much as possible. I don't think the creature type is very relevant, and the power toughness is as low as it could possibly be. Sure, it fuels madness in this format, so it looks really powerful, but if you want to use this on turn 2 to generate 3 mana, which is as powerful as the card can really be, that's the whole reason we can't have this, because we can't have 3 mana on turn 2. If you want to use this card to do that, you're not going to get value out of the madness when you discard a card. You're not going to be able to pay any madness costs. Note too that the ability is worded in such a way that you can't use the mana you're tapping it for to pay for the madness cost. You discard the card before you get the mana. So that's important to note. But basically, what I'm saying here is there's a push-pull where in the mid-game, you can use this as something that taps for mana and also as a madness outlet. But in the early game, it's not a madness outlet. If you want to tap it for 3 mana, basically have 3 mana on turn 2, it's going to cost you a card, which is actually a pretty steep cost. Overall, I feel like it's just balanced enough. It could be a little powerful, but it would go pretty well in the red-green Cryptolith Right deck, which is not like the best deck in the world or anything, but it's, it's a solid 1-drop that taps for mana whether you have the Cryptolith Right out or not, something we're looking for. And later on in the game, you could discard an Avacyn's Judgment to it and pay the madness cost, so all of that seems pretty good. From a flavor perspective, if Deathcap Cultivator, the guy that grows the mushrooms, can tap for mana, it makes sense that the mushrooms can, tap for mana in some way too. And it also makes sense flavor-wise that, the Deathcaps would have some sort of negative effect on you, or in this case, make you lose a little bit of your mind every time you use them. That makes sense. Number 4, I'm just calling Important Zombie. Pretty much it. Important Zombie just costs a 1 black mana. It's a 2/1 zombie shaman. And whenever a card you own is put into exile from anywhere, you may have target player discard a card. Currently, zombie decks have 2 huge holes in this format. Lack of a quality 1-drop, which is not as important as the second thing, which is that there's so much exile in this format. Declaration of Stone is a huge card, Anguished Unmaking is seeing some play, Silk Wrap, Stasis Snare seeing a ton of play, Thought Knot, Seer exiles things. There's even more, Complete Disregard, people play that sometimes, So much exile in the format right now that, Zombies isn't going to be able to do all of its, graveyard tricks like it wants to do. So something like this, although your guys still get exiled, will make them think twice and make them pay a cost for exiling your things. That could actually be a pretty big deal. And I know we're in a format with madness, which sort of just, I know that's risky. But at the same time, that makes this card a little bit more balanced, considering we're in a format with madness. Not only that, but it's a May effect. You don't have to make them discard a card, or you could choose to discard a card if you have a card with madness in your hand. Ultimately, this probably wouldn't be able to block or something, a 1-mana 2/1 black creature that doesn't come into play tapped or that can actually block is a pretty rare thing. So there'd probably be some sort of extra stipulation on this, but all I'm saying is I'd really like there to be an important 1-drop zombie, and I'd really like there to be something in the format that sort of tempers the importance of all these exile effects, and I'd really like it if those 2 things were on the same card. The third card I want to show you is something that I think would be really fun to print, but is probably relatively overpowered, even though I've tried to put some checks and balances on it a little bit here, but I think this is still probably abusable. I just think it would be great in Standard. This is, I couldn't think of a good name for it. It's a legendary artifact. It's called That Thing I Sent You. That Thing I Sent You just costs 2 mana for a legendary artifact with activated abilities of artifacts you control. Cost 1 less to activate, and when an artifact you control is put into a graveyard from the battlefield, sacrifice That Thing I Sent You. It would be nice if clues just cost 1 mana to break, right? And they never actually touch the graveyard, so you could just sacrifice them all day for the 1 mana, and you wouldn't have to sacrifice this. This would also let us just, tap Hangerback Walker without having to pay the mana and then tap him to put the counter on him. But when Hangerback Walker does bust, you lose this too. So a little bit of balance, a little bit of push-pull there, And there's other stuff that can be done in the format. It does have a check on it though, That I think that for Eternal format shenanigans to be kept in check, it's important to have a stipulation on it like that. If an artifact goes to the graveyard, you can't have this anymore. So you can't do like crazy egg tricks or anything. That just makes some sense to me. I don't know if that's the right check on the card. I just think that it's probably a check that will work. But really I just want to sack clues for a mana. I want to tap Hangerback Walker for free, and I don't know how much constructive play something like this would actually see, But I think that if a clues deck wanted to try and be a thing, it could probably play this to fairly good effect. As far as the flavor goes, it would make some sense if Jace had to find some sort of crazy, long-lost artifact, to sort of help him put all the pieces of the puzzle together as far as solving the mystery, So I could, maybe. The next to last card I want to show you is something for the Blue-White Spirits deck. I've already shown you something for the Zombies deck that I think it might need, an effect similar to that. Here's what I think Blue-White Spirits might need, and this is also a card I think is probably fairly powerful, but I want to know what you guys would think about something like this. This is Chancellor Geist. It is an X mana, and a blue and a white. For a Spirit Cleric, it's a 2/2 with flash and flying, and when Chancellor Geist enters the battlefield, counter target spell unless its controller pays X. Spirits needs a good strong piece like this right now, and this could counter Avacyn, Archangel of Tides, Ojutai, Collected Company, Sorin, Chandra, for just like 3 mana a lot of the time. So a piece like this might be really, really, really powerful in the format, but note that a good balance, or at least I think part of a good balance here, is that it can't be exploited with things like Collected Company itself, or like Eldrazi Displacer, Eerie Interlude, Essence Flux, Can't be exploited with anything like that because it's got the X on it. If you do, if it does leave play and come back into play, the X equals 0. So you can't exploit it in that way, which I think is important. You can also just cast a 2 mana, 2-power flyer with flash, but we've got multiple ways of doing that in the format, so you're probably not going to cast this unless you can counter a spell with it, unless things are really bleak. Aside from that, though, does this look too powerful? I'm not sure. It's probably competing with things like Reflector Mage in the 3 mana slot, but people will probably just play both, honestly. Would this be powerful in Modern? I just want to know. Would this be powerful in Modern? I think it would probably see Modern play if this card existed, but what do I know? I'm not totally sure about it, but I think it probably would be a really powerful Standard piece. And finally, the last card I want to show you. I know this is a super long shot, but there's a lot of people that really want this, so I figured I'd try my hand at Merit Lage. Merit Lage is 4 and 3 black, that's 7 mana, for a legendary demigod horror. She's a 20/20. Here's the ridiculous text. Merit Lage cannot attack, block, or be blocked, and Merit Lage cannot leave the battlefield. If you exile a creature, a land, an enchantment, an artifact, and a planeswalker, until end of turn, Merit Lage can attack. That's a weird first line of text, right? At first I figured just giving this defender and then giving you the option of taking away the defender by doing all the crazy exile stuff would be enough, but then I remembered assault formation exists in the format, so you have to word the card around something like that. It doesn't look like it can be removed, even by exile effects, obviously, but it can be neutralized by arrest effects like pacifism and freeze effects like claustrophobia. I like the flavor of having to go through this sort of complex Lovecraftian pulp horror ritual to get her, released from her ice prison, which is, pretty much the flavor they're going with right now. And I also sort of like the flavor, this reminds me of like a reverse Horcrux thing, you have to get all these items together and break them in order to release this like apocalyptic horror. I know that the flavor is odd in a way in that Merit Lage is supposed to be able to planeswalk. She doesn't literally planeswalk. She can move from plane to plane in a way that we don't quite understand. Nerd lore. But in any case, she's supposed to be able to planeswalk, so why can't she leave the battlefield? There's probably a better way to word this. You could just word it, you can't sacrifice Merit Lage. But I just didn't want her to be susceptible and vulnerable to sacrifice effects. Because who are you? You're just some planeswalker. You can't sacrifice Merit Lage. She would never let that happen. You don't have the power to sacrifice Merit Lage. At the same time, though, I really enjoy the humor of a pacified Merit Lage, or like a Merit Lage that's like paralyzed by claustrophobia. That's hilarious. Overall, I don't think that Merit Lage is the answer to the big riddle that Jace is trying to solve. You know, I don't think that it's that. I don't know that it's Emrakul either. I mean, who knows at this point? It's probably not Merit Lage. A lot of people want it to be, but if it is, you know, we'll probably see a card completely different from this. But I just wanted to have some fun and try my hand at her. That's all I got for now, you know. Let me know how you felt about this one. I know sometimes a lot of people will just give me their ideas for designs of cards in the comments. I really, really like that. If you have any ideas kicking around in your head for what you want to see in Eldritch Moon, let me know in the comments. It's always fun to discuss those. Like, card designing is one of the most fun parts of being a Magic player, you know. So we'll discuss in the comments down there. And if you enjoyed the content, go ahead and like it. I got a lot of stuff coming up, including a Cryptolith Right deck. I'm gonna do the green-red one, I believe. I'm working on like 3 of them. I'm gonna do blue-black zombies here, perhaps even Sultai zombies, and there's a bunch of other stuff coming up after that. You know, blue-red aggro and a ton of other decks. So sub if you're new, if you want to catch all that content, and I'll see you guys later. I'm Dev from SBMTG. Thanks for watching, my wizards.